Do you want some fast, easy ways to use your 12 by 12 pattern paper without making scraps? Hi, I'm Jess from JessCrafts.com, and I'm here to help you make the most of your crafty supplies and time. So let's get making. In today's video, I wanted to share my new kitty, Lulu. I did show her in a previous floss tube, but I thought it'd be fun to share her with you guys too and do a little video inspired by her because I picked up the Simple Stories Pet Shop cat collection for today's video, and we are going to be using one sheet of 12 by 12 paper without making scraps. So this is a 12 by 12 paper busting template for A2 cards number 25, which means there are 24 other ones available for free at jesscrafts.com, so you can download those. This template does use 4 by 4 squares, but if you look in the end result, it also covers a good chunk of that 4 by 4 square. So I would not recommend it for those papers that do have the large 4 by 4 squares. Like, you know, printed journaling cards. I did a video, my previous video addressed those, kind of gave you a template for that. And we're going to, this template and sketch is relatively simple and quick to make. So if you really need to bust out a few cards fast, I recommend this one. It's going to make 6 cards with no scraps. The template we are using today is available for free at the link at the top of the video description. You click it, enter your email, and it will get sent right to you so that you can print it out and follow along. To get started, I'm going to cut the branding strip off so that I'm working with a 12 by 12 to start with. It'll be a little bit easier on this back side. We are going to take advantage of the fact that this is double-sided paper. If you don't have double-sided paper, you can work with the sketch still, but I do think it works better with double-sided paper, and you could always just mix 2 sheets of paper. Since they only make 6 cards and it's all relatively fast, I think that it will be okay to double your card count and just go ahead and make the 12 cards pretty quickly. So I'm starting by cutting them into 4 wide by 12-inch tall pieces, and as you can see, my paper is directional, so this sketch does work with directional pattern paper. I do try to keep that in mind, as non-directional pattern paper is out there, but it is a little harder to come by sometimes. I find, like, you know, I'll find a collection and half the pieces will be directional, so I do want to make sure that most of my sketches account for that. Okay, so now I'm cutting them into 4 by 4 squares. I'm going to make 6 4 by 4 squares. Then my next sheet of 4 by 12, I'm going to cut into 4 by 2-inch rectangles. So the fastest way I can do this is to actually just measure 2 back each time. So starting with 12, go to 10, then 8, then 6, counting backwards by 2, makes this whole process relatively quick. If you enjoy these 12 by 12 no scrap paper busting videos, you might be interested in checking out my class at the upcoming Card Maker Success Summit. So the Card Maker Success Summit is being hosted in March this year, the beginning of March, I think the 7th through the 11th, and I am teaching at the summit for the first time. So if you may have attended in the past, and I've shared about it a little bit, but this will be my first time where I have my own class at the summit, and there will be an exclusive paper busting template included as part of my class. So if you want some more 12 by 12 paper busting ideas, you might enjoy that. And there'll be a link in the video description. So here I am taking my 8.5 by 11 piece of cardstock, and I'm cutting it to 4 1/4. That's a 1/4 inch bigger than my 4 by 4 squares. And then I take that 4 1/4 by 8.5. So you can see that's the natural size of it, and I'm going to cut that again at 4 1/4, and I have those square mats that I need without making any really small scraps, and then I'm left with this piece here that is 2 1/2, and so the sketch calls for a 2 1/4 inch by 4 1/4 inch mat for this strip of paper in the center. I'm probably not going to use that today just because the other side of my paper is basically a solid. It's a, you know, a tone on tone. And so I don't think it really needs a mat, but I did want to show you that you can get some pretty efficient use of cardstock with this sketch. So after I have 4 of the 4x4 squares. Then, or 4 1/4 by 4 1/4 inch squares. I make another set, and I have the 6 that I need. And now I need also 6 of these 4 1/4 by 2 1/4, and so I will also be able to cut those out. I'll have to use it on another card if I'm not going to use them today. So that's that 2 1/4, 4 1/4. Oh, is this the right size? Yep. Because my scrap that is left is 2 1/4 as well. And then the other piece of paper has this tiny scrap. So as you can see, it's pretty efficient on cardstock as well if you were to cut them. I don't always share that, but I do think it is helpful sometimes, especially when the measurements work out so conveniently. So this I would just toss, no problem, wouldn't bother me. And then this one I would save, and it would probably work out well on a future card where I need some cardstock mats. So my plan for these cards is to, looking at the sketch, I'm going to place the side with the colors on a cardstock mat. I did choose the navy because there is navy in the paper, and this has navy, so it just kind of keeps pulling in the same colors repeatedly. And then that's going to go on a card, and I'm not going to use the mat underneath it. You absolutely could. I think that red would look really great as a mat on this one, or the pulling in the green would look great as well. I usually just kind of try to go into the collection and match something that is there. And when I assemble cards like this, I know that I want the collar side facing up, so I'll often just kind of turn them all upside down. And this is why I prefer tape runner, because now I can put a little bit of tape on the back of all of these at one time. Whereas if I use glue, by the time I finished gluing my 6th piece, my first one would be dry. And so if you like to speed up your card making, you also might enjoy a tape runner. I use a Scotch ATG. There are other ones out there, but this one is the most inexpensive, the cheapest refills that I have found over time, although the dispenser itself is quite an investment up front, especially if you don't find it like on a sale coupon situation. And then we are going to just place those all on there. I'll do the same thing with these, except for put the collar side up, run it through a bunch of them, and then add that on top, making sure my words are facing the right way, because while some of them are facing up and down, and some of them are across, there's still a clear top and bottom. You can switch it to either of these ways, but you wouldn't want to put the meows upside down. Okay, and then I'm gonna kind of, like, this is a little bit challenging because I kind of have to think about the collars. Like, do I want part of a collar to show or not? And eliminating the mat may have made this a little bit easier because I have just a little bit more up and down room to go, and you can still see a little bit of the pattern, because once you put that cardstock mat there, there's not much of that back pattern showing. So that is something to keep in mind. You don't want it to be like a really large pattern in the background, because you might lose a lot of it once you cover up literally half of it, because this is a 2-inch wide piece and this is a 4-inch or a 2-inch tall and a 4-inch tall. Now I'm ready to embellish the cards. They're basically assembled, you know, but you can do some quick things to finish them off, or you can take your time. I have this really old stamp set from YTFAN. It's Critters in the Burbs. It's one of their very first releases, I believe. I don't see like a copyright date or anything on it, but it has the "You're the Cat's Meow" sentiment, and I thought, well, that's just perfect. And then I also purchased the coordinating die cut bits and pieces, and the bits and pieces, they have a lot of more like scrapbooking related words in them, in my opinion, so that's why I wanted to pull in one of my stamp sets. And I wanted to show you, when I'm stamping multiples like this, a lot of times I honestly will just put it on a stamp block and I won't even bother with my MISTI. I'll just stamp it down.
This has a little bit, it's like the amount of room between the words and the edge of my die cut piece here, because I just die cut out some sentiment strips, is pretty small, kind of narrow, and therefore I thought, well, maybe it'd be nice to be a little bit more precise, and I'll just show you this quick tip. So I took all of my favorite banner dies and I cut them out of one piece of like really sturdy white cardstock. Then I took 2 pieces of painter's tape and I spread it all the way across, and this is the sticky side up. So if I touch it, it's sticky, and therefore it will hold my piece in place. And this means that I can very quickly put down a die cut banner from one of my favorite die cuts and then really easily stamp it in place, which, as you can imagine, this would be difficult to do if I had to hold the sides of my die cut down with my MISTI magnets. And then pull it up. And you actually don't even need to worry about how sticky this tape is. If it gets dirty over time, that actually usually winds up to your benefit. Eventually, it'll get so dirty you can't use it, but you want it to not be terribly sticky. I use delicate surface painter's tape because it's a little less sticky, so it doesn't rip paper nearly as often as traditional painter's tape. It doesn't typically rip my paper at all, but it has on occasion, so I don't want to pretend like it's completely foolproof. And then I'm just stamping it with my Lawn Fawn Storm Cloud ink. I think I could have done it with the blue too, as another way to pull back in the dark blue. And then once I have my sentiments, again, I can just kind of turn them all over, run tape on all of them. I do need a few more to be completely finished with these cards, but I'm going to add it to the bottom right-hand corner of my card to draw your attention, because you'll kind of, with English speakers and people whose language is written left to right, top to bottom, they kind of start at the top of a page and go down. And so this sort of directs your attention inside of the card by kind of leaning into what you naturally do. And then I have my cats. And when I placed the cat die cuts, I pulled out a bunch from the die cut set that I just showed you. And I'm gonna think about whether or not, like, do I want to put it next to it? The words are coming out as but. Not my favorite. So I'm probably gonna stick him or her on top of the words in this case, or even tuck them under a little bit, like that. And then let's just kind of show just a couple of examples. Here, there's enough room. I could put it next to it, and it's her paw or her face facing it. And so that works for me. I could do that. Sometimes they're going to be a little bit bigger, and that's why I'm going to have to put it on top. But then here, this guy particularly, because he's so light, he kind of blends in with the top paper. So then maybe I want to switch it up and do the top. Or something like this where you can also hang it off the side and cut that bit off. I just kind of want to talk a little bit about the options. Honestly, because I have enough cats, I'll probably just skip that particular cat and use a few others that are just more the right size for these cards. Another quick design tip I wanted to add is sometimes when you feel like, so if I place it here, it's a little bit kind of blending in the top. They're not really popping. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. You can totally place it here. But sometimes when you have it hang over the edge of another element, then it enhances it a little bit. It makes it a little bit more noticeable. It's a little more interesting to the eye when things kind of overlap and interact in that way. And so if you kind of feel like, you're messing with a die cut or something like that, and it just doesn't look right, try, also you can even sometimes hang it off the edge of the card, and you can leave it hanging off the edge of the card or trim it up, but it just sort of not fully fitting on the card or not fully being boxed in by the space can add some interest. So then we've made our 6 quick and easy cards from 12 by 12 pattern paper without making any scraps. If you like this idea of using up your 12 by 12 patterned paper, be sure to check out the Cardmaker Success Summit, because that is what my class will focus on. But there's almost like 50 other designers. It is a free event. You do not have to pay anything to attend. There is the weekend of, you get to see all of the classes. You can download my templates and have that forever. but you will get the option to upgrade, and that gives you ongoing access to the video, so you don't have to watch it all in one weekend or anything like that. So I just want to be clear that that exists, but you can do the free version of it, and I would highly recommend it for any card maker just because you're going to learn a lot, and there's a lot of people that you might not have met before and you'll get exposed to during that time. So there will be a link down there for you to sign up for the free access to the summit. If you like this video, here's another video where you can find more ideas for enjoying your crafty time and supplies. Let me know that you like this video with a share to your crafty community. Subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss the next template or tutorial, and check the video description for product links. See you in the next video.